So we have a new update in the investigation of an ICE facility where women were mutilated with unnecessary surgeries. And I say mutilated because it's exactly what happened. It appears that witnesses in this case are being deported before they can testify. So Vice News caught up with one key witness, Anna Kajagal Adan. I probably butchered her name. I apologize for that. But while the country was fixated on this election, she says that ICE notified her that she would be immediately deported to Mexico. Adan, 25, is one of the 5 women who tell Vice News that they were treated by Dr. Mahendra Amin, who is also known as the uterus collector. They say ICE either deported or attempted to deport these women before they were able to testify or fully testify. And so before I get into any more details, Francesca, I want your input. Take it away.
I mean, this is what's at stake, right? This is why, as much as we hate Democrats, we know that there is actually a huge difference between human rights and how people are treated on the border under a Democratic president and under a Republican one. And yes, I know that Obama was the deporter-in-chief. Immigration organizations know that he was the deporter-in-chief, and they fought against him then, and they fought against Trump's policies now. But also, Dreamers won under Obama, right? We're talking 500,000 Americans who've been in this country since they were under the age of 3, who are now allowed, who had a pathway to citizenship, gone under Donald Trump, right? So, there is life and death, even though I know for so many of us it feels like it's the same, 2 sides of the same corrupt coin. But yeah, these are people who wouldn't have been like test subjects and lab rats.
Yep.
And I mean, this is Nazi shit, guys. Nazi shit. It's Nazi shit. And so, of course, they're trying to cover their tracks, right?
Yep.
You got Chad Wolf as head of the DHS. Of course, they're covering their tracks and trying to deport anyone as soon as they can. They deported the young woman who was impregnated when she was assaulted at a detention facility, I think, in El Paso. Same thing.
No, you're absolutely right. I was just going to say, too, on the Obama thing, yes, deporter-in-chief, 100%. But at this point, maybe you would think that some of them might be actually doing better, than they would under Donald Trump, being locked in cages, separated from their families, and subject to horrific experiments. Yeah, it's not great. Is it marginally better? One could make an argument. And that's not, and this is coming from somebody who does not defend or like that policy whatsoever. I think it's horrible to, deport that many people. But then you look at what Donald Trump's been doing, what he's been given license to do.
Yes.
I mean, that's
and it was all an apparatus built. I mean, look, it was. Obama was president. There is no excuse. He could have shut down that apparatus. But This was an apparatus built after 9/11, built in the wake of the war on terror, built as part of, talk about slick fascists, George W. Bush and the entire administration. And I meant to say this earlier. Remember, these are the guys who coined, this is Donald Rumsfeld saying the evidence of absence is not absence, or no, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's literally what Trump is trying to say right now with these votes, right? The fact that there is no evidence of fraud doesn't mean there isn't fraud, right? It's ridiculous. And so, but these guys were the smart ones when it came to developing a fascist military police state. And they did it very well under the guise of the war on terror. And we are still in need of dismantling that apparatus. ICE should absolutely be abolished.
Yes.
Department of Homeland Security, abolish that shit. Gone, completely gone, right? And if only because they've abused their power and they've lost the ability to actually police anything, right? So anyway, yeah, it's a horrifying story, but yeah, it's the whataboutism when it comes to immigrant lives and saying but Obama. Yeah, I think we have to remember that doesn't actually help us, right?
Right.
Like, what does that mean for where we want to go?
Right, and I think of any of the issues that you could push Joe Biden on, it would be immigration. because that is something that universally doesn't affect the donors. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the moneyed interests, and you could say, hey, look, you could reverse a lot of the Trump policies, which is probably already going to do, and then work on that pathway to citizenship. And I think that is probably one of the things you can push Biden on, and we should try to get him to do that, because, I mean, these stories are horrifying. Again, this person, it's called the uterus collector. I mean, how much more details can you get into that? I mean,
like,
he's
even
going and stealing people's uteruses.
The just the creepiest, again, most
disgusting.
diabolic villain shit. Total
villain shit. In fact, this is not something that is historically unprecedented by either. By the way, according to historical data, 32 states in this country in the 20th century maintained federally funded eugenics boards tasked with ordering sterilizations of women and men that are deemed undesirables. What do you think this administration does? You said it earlier. Nazi shit. It's exactly what it is. California had asexualization acts, which led to 20,000 men and women losing reproductive capacity, and it was a direct inspiration to the Nazis. They looked at America and they said, ooh, we like that. We're going to take that. Yoink. Disgusting. Horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, against the Native American population in this country, African American population in this country, the Tuskegee experiments, like, yes, black and brown bodies in this country have been utilized for disgusting medical experiments, and absolutely there have been plans of sterilization. And I just, it's gross. Like, if it's not just cruel, but there's something so gross about, there was before this, right? Like, I think in 2017, there were reports that women who had been raped and then were impregnated, who were crossing the border into the United States, that their periods and their pregnancies were being tracked, and they were prevented from accessing a safe abortion. They were being tracked by, I forgot the guy, but it was either the former Department of Homeland Security head, or anyway, the point is like this obsession with the reproductive freedom and the uteruses of mostly women of color and like the other. It's so gross. It is, eugenics have been disproven, but for some reason, i.e. racism, like we in this country still have people who are like that. And they want to do that to all women, not just women who cross the border. I mean, if Amy Coney Barrett had her way, she'd be personally tracking all of our cycles, and that'd be scary.
It is really scary how much Republicans love this stuff. They're not outraged about this. When this report came out, they weren't angry. They're like, yeah, that's fine. We're pro-life, but only when it comes to white babies, by the way. Yeah. As far as, other people's babies, no. Look, Steve King, you remember Steve King? He basically said what a lot of them think out loud. We can't rebuild our civilization with somebody else's babies. I mean, it's disgusting. It's who they are. And by the way, as far as reproductive rights, I mean, it doesn't affect wealthy women. If you have a ban on Roe v. Wade, they can still get abortions. It's poor women of color primarily, but also poor white women. But they're okay with that too, because guess what? Those people grow up disadvantaged, and maybe they're easier to prod into voting Republican. So it's a win overall.
We have so much healing to do in this country, and especially with reproductive rights. It's one of those issues that is, we misname it as being only a women's issue. It's not. It's a justice issue. It's an economic issue, like you're saying. And I think liberal feminists, to be honest with you, have done a lot of that damage. There's some amazing radical left feminists and organizations that do really, really dope work. But I think it's been also so non-profitized. And I hope with the just cold glass of water thrown on our faces that Amy Coney Barrett was, or more just like a kick in the crotch to every woman in this country. I think the feminist movement is waking up to the fact that our struggle is actually really radical and is actually very much interconnected with other struggles. And And yeah, and that Republicans will sell out women's bodies anytime, any day, any place.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to actually save Roe v. Wade, we have to link that with a whole lot of other anti-fascist civil rights, things like justice for Black lives, like reining in the police, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a scary, every time we're faced with something awful, it is an opportunity to see the problem in a new light, which is what we hope moderate Democrats are doing right now.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.